Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And why aren't these stories, on the mainstream media? Why aren't they in the news?
Because the mainstream media is being sponsored by the pharmaceutical companies. I mean, that's one of their main sources of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
The mainstream media is having trouble surviving.
That's very true.
And so they need the money from the drug companies. Also, too, they're influenced by the physicians. And here's another thing. A woman say that she's taking Prozac, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And she's acting goofy at home. She's threatening to divorce her husband. And her whole personality has changed. And she goes to the doctor, and he says, how do you feel on the Prozac? And she said, I feel great. I feel wonderful. Because it gives you kind of like an exuberant energy, but at the same time, you become very hostile, and you become very impulsive, and a complete personality change.
Well, why don't you think more adults are self-aware about this?
Are self-aware?
Yeah, why do you think it is that somebody gets on a pill and, like you said, they go and because they feel this euphoria at points, they go and they tell their doctor that everything's great. Why aren't they more self-aware that their personality is literally changing in front of their eyes?
That is the main mystery about these drugs. Early on, I was in the Prozac Survivor Support Group, and everybody who ruined their life and then called the Prozac group afterwards, they said we had no idea the drug was doing it. It's very subtle. Very subtle. You don't know that the drug is doing it.
So do you think it's doing it in like incremental stages? Obviously not the first time you take Prozac, you're not going to
I'll tell you, no, here's what they say. If you're going to have a terrible reaction, it usually happens either when you first start the drug or when you stop the drug, when you decrease the dose or increase the dose, or when you switch from one SSRI to another. That's the most dangerous times for these kind of behavioral changes.
So it really isn't a creeper drug. It's really more about just getting it into your system, and then once it's in your system,
right,
it's hard to control in any case.
I think it's more like, when you start and stop, and it's disrupting the neurotransmitters in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So, then maybe there's a person that's been on Prozac for 10 years and thinks they're doing fine, and that's okay. I'm not arguing with them, and I'm saying, okay, they're doing fine, although they probably have gained weight by now. That's another thing that's kind of sneaky about these drugs. When you first start them, you don't gain weight, or maybe even you lose a little, But after you've been on them for 10 years, I bet you've gained at least 40 to 50 pounds.
And why is that?
Why is that? Now, that's a good, very good question, but I doubt that it's been studied. Who would sponsor a study like that? That why have you gained weight? It slows your metabolism in the end.
Mm-hmm.
When you start out, you become agitated. You're kind of speeded up, and have a lot of energy. But as the years go on, while you're on the drugs, your energy gets less and less. And so your metabolism starts to slow down. Your whole body really is kind of being, I guess, poisoned.
Well, why does it give it that reversed effect? It seems like at first, it doesn't make you that docile, but later on it starts to make you more and more docile and less healthy. Well, why is it that it gives you this burst of energy in the very beginning, but later on it has these other effects?
Well, the burst of energy is probably, of course, from the serotonin itself,
Mm-hmm.
But then later on, I don't really know how this works exactly. I just know that people that would tell me they'd been on Prozac for 12 years or sold off for 14 years or something,
mm-hmm.
and that they just got lazier and lazier. They got kind of numbed out. And, so it just made them heavier and slowed their metabolism.
Maybe your body acclimates to it. Who knows? It's a tragic story that people, again, not only young people are on this, but older people are on this and ruining their lives, ruining their relationships with their friends, their family.
Well, I think the problem with American people is they can't understand. If the word says antidepressant, they can't believe that drug is going to make them more depressed instead of less depressed. I mean, would you believe that an antibiotic for pneumonia was going to give you pneumonia instead of cure you of pneumonia?
Well,
We've never heard of that in the 40s or 50s or 60s,
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard for people to comprehend this.
How can people support you?
Support me?
Yeah, support you and your website.
How can people support me?
Yeah, how can they get in touch with you? You got an email? I mean,
there's a contact page. They can email to me.
Do you have a donations? Do you sell any products? I mean,
no, I don't. I'm doing this strictly as a volunteer.
Well, how long have you been involved in this? Because it's a pretty elaborate website.
Yeah, it is. I've been working on it since 1997.
Oh,
but
wow.
I didn't put it out on the World Wide Web until December of 2006.
So wait a minute, you worked on this, but you're telling me you worked on this almost a decade before you put it on the internet?
Right.
That's a story in itself.
It is, because I had a message board, and I was just sending out to different people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I was saving all the cases, and one day I looked up, and I had over 1,000 cases. And I thought, boy, you know, people should know about this. And so there was a lady out in California who said, yeah, go ahead, and she got me a computer specialist. My husband is pretty good at it, too. But anyway, he set up this, when you go into the index, it's a database that's sortable, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first it will have the what column, and that means, like, what happened, like school shooting or arson. Then the drug, which drug was it, you know, like Prozac or Zoloft. Or then the date when it happened. Then where, like Texas or Louisiana. And then a little bit of additional column there.
Gotcha.
And so you can press on those, see, there, and then click on it, and then it'll sort it. Like, if you click on where, all of a sudden, it'll start with, I guess, Alabama.
Now, do you get a lot of people contacting you with new stories? I mean, even 3,000 seems like a big number, but I'm guaranteed there's 30,000.
A lot of people contact me with stories, but the problem is we can't use personal stories. It has to be a story that appeared in a newspaper.
Well, that's what I mean. They're not giving you as many news tips?
They're giving me a few. I get some. Yeah.
I can get you news tips.
Okay.
You give me an email out here. I get you as many news tips as you want. I get 100 a day.
The thing is, the article has to say in it that the person was taking a medication for depression or an antidepressant or Prozac or Lexapro or Cymbalta or something.
Well, if you hear that, listeners, ssristories.com is where you send your stories about these serotonin reuptake inhibitors, Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft, and more. Thank you so much for joining us, Betty. It's Betty Henderson of ssristories.com. Go check out the site. So much to learn. You have a good night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
We'll be back after this with a news blitz in your call. It's the Info Warrior.